Welcome to the Viking Age podcast, the official podcast of thevikingage.com. My name is Chris Schad. I'm a writer for the Viking Age, as well as Zone Coverage, Bring Me the News, and the Brookings Register. My co-host is Adam Patrick. We do this, or he is the managing editor of the Viking Age, really. I got everything kind of going off at me right now. But we do this every Monday with a late week episode right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel. We're also in podcast form on Apple and Spotify the very next day. But however you consume us, make sure you rate, comment, like, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode and we can spread the word to the masses. Adam, you alerted me to some breaking news before we went on here, so why not? Josh Dobbs to the San Francisco 49ers, a one-year deal. Pretty seismic. You know, I think this completely changes the Vikings options at quarterback next year.
For sure. They essentially swapped the Niners, and the Vikings essentially swapped backup quarterbacks with Sam Darnold going to the Vikings and the 49ers taking Josh Dobbs for, I believe, about $7.5 million less than what Sam Darnold is able to make next year. Sad to see him go. Enjoyed the memories of the Pastronaut, but he's now on a new mission with San Francisco. And Alexander Madison, good luck to him. Good luck to him.
We'll talk about Madison a little bit later. I mean, now Josh Dobbs is going to be touched by the hand of God.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, that's probably what happened there. He's like, Sam Darnold got how much? I'm going to go sign with the Niners and like go hang out with Kyle Shanahan. Shanahan probably bought him in because he was hanging around Kirk Cousins for like, you know, a half a year. And like, dude, you smell like Kirk. I want you. You touched Kirk. Did he give you a high five? How is Kirk doing? I miss Kirk.
It's like those coaches that get hired because they went for like coffee once with Sean McVay.
They crossed swords with Sean McVay in Vegas. Dude, we got freaking hammered. It was awesome. And like Sean McVay was in there and he's like, woo. Yeah. I know a guy that got a job because of Sean McVay. I think you know the guy too, but
Mike Zimmer.
Mike, total friends with Sean McVay. I would pay to see Sean McVay and Mike Zimmer go to Vegas. Zimmer would just be at the slot machine with his cigarettes just going one by one.
He'd have a cup of dip.
He did. He'd probably do both. I bet you he'd do both in that moment. Just like, I'm on the heater, baby. Let's go.
He doesn't look like a smoker.
No. We know he's a chewer, but yeah. You know, the whole thing with the Dobbs thing too is we're looking at the Vikings right now. They're wheeling and dealing. They're trying to move up in the draft. And the problem is they're at pick 11. How many games did Josh Dobbs win last year?
2.
He won 2. Do you know where the Vikings would be picking if he did not win those games?
I don't want to talk about it.
5th. But compete. You always compete, and no matter what. And I want to see my team win because draft position doesn't matter.
Well, they got an A on the NFLPA report card, and they might not have done that if they didn't get those 2 wins.
They can hang that banner next to most cap space in the league in 2025.
It's framed somewhere.
It's probably like a diploma in Kwesi's office, just like right next to the Ivy League diploma. It's, followed by, where did Adam Thielen go to school? Anyway, this is already off the rails, so we might as well talk about some quarterbacks that will play for the Vikings soon, or like prospective ones. Of course, on Friday, the Vikings acquired the 23rd overall pick in this year's draft from the Houston Texans, who have some new uniforms that are out there. What do you think of those?
I'm waiting for the full reveal. I don't want to pass any judgment because we've only seen one version, and not even can't even really see the whole thing. You can't see the pants, can't see the sides or the back or even really the helmet. So I'll wait to pass judgment. But from the front, it looks like I commented did they get demoted to the UFL? But because it looks like an old XFL uniform right now. But I don't know. We'll see.
I don't hate them from the league. A lot of people are strongly against them, and I'm like, they're fine. Yeah. I mean, it's not the Tennessee Titans, when they changed up theirs a couple years ago, they did kind of the same thing where they tweaked some stuff and it just looked a hell of a lot worse. I don't think it looks worse than the old Texans uniforms, but I did see somebody pointed out that they had a different shade of blue during their press conference.
With Danielle Hunter.
Yeah. So like some people were like, maybe they're going with like a brighter blue.
Nope.
No. Unless it's an alternate, which would be pretty sweet.
I mean, they're not as bad as the Browns uniforms that said Browns on them and Cleveland on the front, or the alarm clock Buccaneers uniforms, which are probably those in the Jaguars with like the two-tone helmet. Like those early 2010 uniforms are featured like some of probably the worst uniforms in NFL history, including the Vikings.
Or like those Atlanta Falcon jerseys that have the ATL and number 18 for
those are
certain one. Do you think Kirk Cousins called Kyle Pitts and he said, "Hey, could I have number 8, please?" And he said, "Kirk, I appreciate the offer, but it's not about the dollars. It's what the dollars represent." And you know damn well Kirk wasn't going to spend extra money on, buying out all the number 8 jerseys in Atlanta because it is about the dollars. It's completely about the dollars.
Yeah, Kirk doesn't have enough money to buy all those. He's got to save for I don't even know because he's probably living in. I think when they lived in Arizona before he signed with the Falcons, they lived in like their in-laws' basement.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's a nice basement, but still, it's like you've made like $200 million in your career and you're living in a basement. Gotta save money. And I think what was it, the documentary? Or no, it was a quarterback series where he showed off like his hyperbaric chamber, and it wasn't, he got it used or something. And I'm like, dude, just buy new. Just buy something new. You can afford it.
I'll just say this very quickly about this. I know we're bouncing off the walls and going from topic to topic here, but it's a podcast. We're freewheeling here. That's what people do. The whole Kirk Cousins thing over the past week. If you wanted the money, nobody was going to be upset with you. Like everybody gets it. 4 years, 180 million. Arthur Blank is like trying to get a Super Bowl before he dies. We totally understand it. That press conference on, when was it? Was it Monday after the show? Or was it
Wednesday?
No,
Wednesday
yeah,
night?
it was Wednesday. Yeah, late Wednesday night.
Wednesday was the first day of the league year, and somehow they got a deal done like that.
Couple hours. Yeah. Just not even. I mean, the whole thing is just, I'm trying not to be like the jealous ex-girlfriend here or boyfriend. But at the same time, he's running around with the chains. He's doing the Coles thing.
Yeah, get your own bet.
Like you see all the Falcons fans and they're like, I really like what Kirk said. This guy's a winner and everything else. And like, it reminds me of when like the Vikings signed Kirk Cousins back in 2018. And there was this clip, and it was Washington Commanders training camp. And Josh Norman got an interception. He's like, Kirk doesn't play here anymore. And everybody was so happy. I'm like, man, they're just bitter. No, it's because they knew. Like Vikings fans know. They know how this ends. You have a offensive coordinator shinier than John DeFilippo's kicks right now, but those things are going to be scuffed up by the end of the year because you don't have the proper code words in there, or the offensive line isn't good enough, or you don't have good enough receivers, or the coach looked at him the wrong way in the locker room. I don't know. I don't know, man. The whole thing seems sleazy, and it just, his apology where he's reading bar for bar off a cue card. It's just, it won't happen. It won't happen. But when he comes back to US Bank Stadium next year, I want to see him booed out of the damn building. but you know what they'll do? They'll have their little Kirko chains tributes.
They don't really have a choice depending on what the fans want to do. I think I think he might get booed. There'll be fans that are like cheering for him, but who's someone that got booed returning who used to be a Viking? Did Adrian Peterson get booed? I don't think he got booed, did he?
I was
when he was with the Saints.
I was at that game actually. I don't recall him. I think there were some boos
because it wasn't really it wasn't like a messy breakup. Really, it was Pearson's not good anymore, so go play for the Saints. Where with Cousins, it's like the Vikings kind of still wanted to get him back, but they didn't want to pay him what he wanted. And he, says it's not about the money, and then signs the contract that's giving him the most money.
And it's about the fact too, like and I promise we'll get to new quarterbacks soon. This is just on my mind. But I mean, it's all about like the Vikings basically bent over backwards for him the last 2 years. Then he goes, it's not about the money, but it really is. And I'm going to take all of it and not spend a dime.
I think he just knew that when Kwesi walked in the door, it was, he was probably told, like, we want you to keep Kirk Cousins for at least a year. And then after that, you can figure out what you want to do. And Kirk probably knew that. And from the second Kwesi walked in the door, he didn't probably like the vibes he got from, or Kirk probably didn't like the vibes he got from Kwesi, and which is kind of probably why he's been, I think he said in multiple interviews where it's like, I really like the Falcons because the owner, the head coach, and the GM are all on the same page. And it's like, they are in Minnesota too. That's why you're not there.
Yeah.
So, like, just because one of them didn't want to pay you an ass load of money doesn't mean everyone's not on the same page. Maybe Kevin O'Connell wanted you back more than Kwesi or some of the owners, but O'Connell also understands that it's probably the best decision for the team as a whole to not pay someone who's going to be 36 in August coming off a torn Achilles. So, yeah, but I guess there's dysfunction in Minnesota if you ask Kirk Cousins or Mike Florio, I guess, too.
Yeah, Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell are going to have a steel cage match after Thursday's press conference. They're going to duke it out at WrestleMania in Minneapolis if we ever get one.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's look at the future here because it seems bright for the Vikings. Again, they got the 23rd overall pick from the Texans on Friday. They also own the 11th overall pick in the NFL draft. And all signs right now are pointing to the Vikings targeting a trade up to get Drake May or J.J. McCarthy. Alec Lewis of the Athletic. I've been playing too much of the show since I bought it the other day, but it's more probable the Vegas Athletics. Holy shit. Let's rewind here. I swear to God, too, this is just bubbly. It's not a beer this time, so we can't use that for an excuse. But it's more probable that the Vikings trade 3 firsts for May than McCarthy. Albert Breer reported earlier on Monday, though, that the Vikings will have a presence at McCarthy's Pro Day and a private workout next week. So, who do you think the Vikings are trading up for?
First
Drake
off,
May or J.J. McCarthy?
Sorry to step on you, but first off, stop calling it a private workout, everybody. It's a top 30 visit, okay? Like, this isn't new. I see people already being like, "Oh, they're bringing them in for a private workout. They're really in. It's a top 30 visit. They're gonna."
Do you think they have like the red rope? Like they just have 2 buff dudes and like sunglasses? Like J.J. McCarthy, your name's on the list. Kirk Cousins, your name's not on the list. Kirk, what do you mean? They've dripping swag.
They've already brought in people for private workouts, but you gotta embellish stuff to get some eyes on whatever you're doing. Yeah. Your question was, who are they targeting? Drake May or Mike McCarthy? Wow. I hope they're not targeting Mike McCarthy.
I mean, that would be just like a mind fuck for everybody if they went from Mike McCarthy, who is the head of the negotiating table, to JJ McCarthy. But yes, JJ McCarthy.
No, I think they like Drake May, and I think they like JJ McCarthy. I've heard though that and seen, I might have saw this online somewhere or whatever, but like the Vikings really intrigued in making the JJ to JJ combo. I don't know if you saw that as well. So JJ McCarthy to Justin Jefferson. But yeah, I don't know if they have a preference. I think they understand that they would have to give up more to get Drake May, but at the same time, if you're trading up to, let's say, 4 or 5 for the Cardinals or Chargers, you're probably not going to be the only team giving them a call to trade up. So, on the draft charts or whatever, like the Draft Tech or Rich Hill or whatever, where it says like, oh, you only need such and such picks to move up, and that'll be good. So all the Vikings need to move up to 5 is their 2 first-round picks and maybe a 4th rounder next year. But that's not the case if other teams are, bidding for that spot. So you're probably going to have to give up next year's first. It sucks, but at the same time, it doesn't suck because if your quarterback works out and you get to take advantage of that rookie scale contract, then who cares about that first round pick next year? It's not going to matter. And you're already do what, 2 third round compensatory picks next year too. So right now you're scheduled to have 3 third-round picks next year, which Quasey will probably turn into, I don't know, 7 6-round picks. I don't know. But as far as their preference, I don't know if they have one. I think they like both. Obviously, they have the connection with the Josh McCown to Drake May, and then J.J. McCarthy. There's been a lot of steam on the Vikings liking him for pretty much the entire offseason. So I think they'll be happy with whichever quarterback they end up with. But I think if they want to get one of those guys, you got to trade up to 4, right? Because you can't take that risk sitting at 5. You trade for that 5th pick with the Chargers, let's say this week, and then a week later, or even in the draft, the Giants move past you, or the Broncos, or the Raiders, or somebody, and they trade with the Cardinals, and they get the 4th pick, and they get McCarthy, and then you're like, well, shit, we just trade all that stuff to get the 5th pick, and I guess we'll take Rome Odunze. I like Sam Darnold, go crazy, I guess.
Reach for Brock Bowers or something.
Yeah, they would trade back if that happened.
Yeah. Well, they'd probably be fired on the spot, just like the Wolves would be like, what are you doing? Why are we? What? No, that's pretty much it. So there's a couple thoughts at play here. And I mean, I think it starts with how the top 5 is going to pan out. We know Caleb Williams is going number 1 to the Bears now that Justin Fields was traded to the Steelers for the 6th-round pick.
A ham sandwich.
Yeah, Russ Dangerous, which is probably like, it's spicy though. Come on, Ryan Poles.
That's the creepiest commercial ever.
You like my sandwich? Like,
it's so bad.
The more I think about it, the happier I am. He's not the Vikings quarterback now, but we digress.
Those were fun rumors, huh? Yeah.
So you have Caleb Williams at 1 of the Bears.
Yep.
Number 2, the betting favorite right now is Jaden Daniels, who Alec Lewis also said the Vikings liked, but it sounds like the Commanders are locked into a quarterback, especially since they traded Sam Howell to the Seahawks on Friday.
Yeah. Well, they signed Jacoby Brissett. I don't know.
Yeah. The first 2 picks are locked in.
Yeah.
The 3rd pick, the Patriots, that's kind of the wild card. And I think it sounds like most of the conversations are going with them. I think if they trade up to 3, that means they like May more.
Yep.
And I think it makes sense because, I don't know, you could probably get J.J. McCarthy at 4 if the Cardinals are willing to trade down. Mm-hmm. But I mean, where this gets kind of slippery is, do you make the deal with the Patriots to go get Drake May, or do you try and get it at 4? But if the Cardinals are smitten with Marvin Harrison Jr., and they're just like, hey, we're taking him no matter what.
Right.
Well, then you have the 5th pick with the Chargers. And I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying here. And again, this has nothing to do with the absolutely stupid Justin Herbert trading rumors that are out there. Put a freaking trade into the over the cap trade calculator, and you'll see why they're not going to trade Justin Herbert, because they'd be over the cap by $60 million. But please make your TikTok videos top 5 landing spots for Justin Herbert. Number 1, Minnesota. It's ridiculous. It's just like, it's like the Justin Jefferson one too. You tweeted one out and he's like, well, what if they go to the Raiders, or like, what if they put him with the Chiefs? No, that's not going to happen. You know why? Because there's a fucking salary cap.
It's a myth. It's a myth though. It's a myth.
Yeah, that's why the Chargers redid Joey Bosa and
the Bills,
Khalil Max. Yeah,
the Saints
Bills,
every offseason.
Just, sorry, I'm triggered, but you know, everybody's talking about, well, do you want to give up 3 first-rounders? Do you want to give up 2 first-rounders? What's it going to cost? Anybody who's been in a dynasty fantasy football league knows that if you put a trade into a calculator, it's not always the best deal because the other owner knows you're desperate. I don't care what Quasey said at last week's press conference, saying we have the flexibility and we could roll with Sam Darnold. His nose might as well have went out like Pinocchio at that point.
Does Sam Darnold want to roll with Sam Darnold?
Dude, that press conference, watching it, Sam Darnold, you can tell, he's spooked in his own head. He's at a press conference, he's like, yeah, guys, I'm really excited to be here, and holy shit, that's a bright light. Yeah, I can definitely be starting. They gave me a lot of money. I don't really know why.
It was
But
just really funny to have him sitting next to Aaron Jones because Aaron Jones was like totally the opposite of whatever Sam Darnold was.
and then Darnold tried to make a joke like, "Oh, I forgot my sunglasses." And then Aaron
Uh-huh.
Jones is like, "Here you go." And he's like, "No, I don't want to wear those."
Yeah.
But Brandon Beane of the Bills, he had a good comment at the scouting combine when they asked about trading up for quarterbacks because the Bills did that to get Josh Allen. And he said something along the lines of, if it fails, I'm not going to be here anyway. If it succeeds, nobody's going to give a shit what we gave up to get him. And I think that's the attitude the Vikings have to have right now. Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adolphus are in the third year of 4-year deals. If they see a quarterback that they think they like, they might as well take the plunge, because if they don't, they're going to get fired with Sam Darnold. Like, and I know I've been kind of out in front being like, calm down about Sam Darnold. Everything's going to be fine. We're not replacing him with Kirk. But I mean, if they don't take a quarterback this year, it's kind of like, then what is the plan? What are you looking for? And why did you trade for a first round pick? Like, it just seems like a lot of things going on right now, which gives them flexibility, but it also kind of has them teetering on the edge of disaster.
I also love the people that are doing mock drafts now, keeping the Vikings having 2 first-round picks, and they're like, and they give them like a defensive tackle and then a cornerback. It's like they got these. They're loading up on defense before they get to next year, and then they'll draft a quarterback. It's like, no, they're not. But do you think May or McCarthy has like the higher ceiling? I feel like May probably his ceiling is probably higher, but his floor might be actually lower than McCarthy. So I think that's probably part of the decision that the Vikings are kind of going through right now, where like if you get May, the highs might be like really, really high. But if he fails, which I think he has probably a lower chance of failing if he lands with the Vikings and say he does land with the Patriots or he does land with the Giants. Because the Vikings are pretty set up pretty well to bring in a young quarterback. I mean, anytime you have a solid offensive line, Justin Jefferson as your number 1 receiver, Addison as your number 2, just added Aaron Jones, Kevin O'Connell, former quarterback, as your head coach, Josh McCown, former quarterback, as your quarterback's coach. Like, they are set up for a rookie quarterback, regardless of who they get. But then I was thinking too, like, what if the Patriots like J.J. McCarthy? What if they like him in 1 and draft him at 3? Then, what do the Cardinals do? Do they have like a bidding war number 4 for people to get Drake May? Does Drake May fall? Like, I don't know. Or is this the Vikings' plan the whole time to get Drake May to fall, actually? Because heading into the offseason, he was, consensus number 2 easily behind Caleb Williams. And then the last few months have gone around. People are like, oh, I don't know about Drake May. The Patriots don't like him. Doesn't sound like they like him. It's like, what changed in the last few weeks?
You know what? Nobody went to Drake May's birthday party.
Right.
The most overused joke of draft season, but you gotta love it.
Yeah.
Then he lied about it.
Yeah.
Like, come on. When I look at Drake May, I see like a lot of people have kind of but like, by the way, if you did not see our last episode with Thor Nystrom on Friday morning, it was incredible. He deep dove into May. He deep dove into McCarthy, who's his guy. He's got him ahead of May.
He went over some Jaden Daniels stuff too, I feel like, too.
Yeah. We played all the greatest hits basically.
Yeah.
But when I look at May's highlights, and I haven't dove into the whole tape, so I haven't seen the lows or anything, but his highs, he looks like Ben Roethlisberger. I think that's a fair comp. He's big. He's got a strong arm. He's hard to bring down. Sometimes he makes like a throw where you're like, hey, what are you doing here, bud? But I think that is what you're looking at with Drake May. And I think what your challenge was to eliminate the dumb plays. Like, hey, sometimes it's okay to take a sack. Sometimes it's okay to throw a check down, but he attacks downfield. J.J. McCarthy, I've said this before. I think there are some people out there who just have been dead set against J.J. McCarthy because of how he was used at Michigan. How, Jim Harbaugh wanted to run because he had the best backfield in college football, and J.J. McCarthy wasn't used because they were kicking the tar out of everyone. Now, the Connor Stallion thing, I don't know how much it played into this whole thing. Like some people will bring that up. But I mean, you look at the physical tools. J.J. McCarthy can run. He's got a big arm. He can throw downfield. There are some consistency issues. But again, that's coaching. Do you trust Kevin O'Connell to coach a quarterback up? So if I'm looking at the two, I mean, if they trade 3 firsts for May, let's go. If they trade, 2 firsts for J.J. McCarthy, I'm okay with that too.
What if they trade?
What are you going to say?
That? What if they trade 3 for McCarthy? You going to be okay with that?
I mean, whatever
gets
done
at this point, at this point, who cares?
If you're going to do this, you might as well go. Like, this is not the time to haggle, especially when you made that Texans trade. Like, that's why everybody was so excited with the Texans trade. Because, oh, dude, they're going for it.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't do that, like you said, to get a defensive tackle, although it'd be great. Like, somebody in my mentions was like, well, what about the defensive tackle? What are we going to do there? If we get a franchise quarterback, I'm not going to give a shit about the defensive tackle. We're going to sign one in free agency with our ass load of cap room. This is the whole new dimension of Vikings football. We could do stuff that was not possible with Kirk Cousins, and Atlanta is going to find that out soon. So,
what? They got their new Mooney.
They signed Mooney, didn't they?
Yeah.
I thought you said they got their new Mooney. I'm like, Mooney didn't play there, but
no. But with McCarthy, what was I going to say? Would you compare? Well, Drake May is getting the comparisons. A lot of his comparisons are Josh Allen, just because of like some of he makes those great plays. He can scramble, and yes, he does make some of those stupid fucking plays where he like throws the ball with his other hand or something. But then I think with J.J. McCarthy, with like if he came in and he was like an early Russell Wilson, not the cringy type guy, but like early Russell Wilson, who was great for the Seahawks. Like he did everything that they needed him to do. Russell Wilson wanted to do more, but the Seahawks were like, no. You're gonna throw the ball when we need you to throw the ball, and you're gonna hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch. Like if the Vikings got that from J.J. McCarthy, then he's worth whatever picks they need to get him, because Russell Wilson helped that team win a Super Bowl, and that's the main goal. So I think even if he's just that, I'm fine with that. Like we have all these expectations for, like, if a guy gets selected in the top 5 of the draft, he's got to be the next Patrick Mahomes. When you're just looking for a guy, probably just like a Brock Purdy, who can run your system really, really well, make few mistakes, and just let other guys make plays. So whatever they need to do to get the guy that they want, I think they should do it, regardless of who disagrees with them or not.
Yeah, I think the last thing I have on this subject is too, like, I think a lot of people are turned off by like, oh, McCarthy's weird. He meditates before games. Like you said, John Henderson got slapped in the face by his trainer before he went out and game. Like John Randall painted his face like the goddamn Ultimate Warrior and he looked up dudes' names in the phone book. He's like, hey, what about your sister, huh? I'm like, what the, my sister? Yeah, your mom. Give it to your mommy. Yeah.
The former home of Jared Allen, and everyone's like, oh, McCarthy's weird, but Jared Allen's fine. He's good.
It's going to be fun. Like I've said this before, I'm rejuvenated as a Vikings fan right now because this is exciting. This is, I've never seen the Vikings go all in for a quarterback. Like it's always, Dante Culpepper fell to him and he panned out. They took Christian Ponder at 12 because he was the quarterback that was there. The Vikings are like, no, F the draft order. And, it's that gentleman who is screaming at me about draft orders and all that stuff. Maybe they're right because the Vikings are forging their own destiny. But yeah.
And I've seen some of that mentality too, still from Vikings fans who are probably just scarred from the past, who are like, oh, they got 2 picks now, so they can get their defensive tackle with 11, and then at 23 they can draft Michael Penix, and then they'll be good. And it's like, no, that's not the point. The point of this is to do something they've never done before, trade up in the draft and get one of the top prospects, not just sit around and wait and let everything fall into their lap like they've been doing their whole entire existence, and then that's resulted in 0 Super Bowl wins. So they have to do something different, and it looks like they're going to.
And if it doesn't work, they just start over again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like
you win the same amount of Super Bowls you've already won.
Exactly. Exactly. You know what wins the Super Bowl, though? A nice running game.
Yeah.
Running backs don't seem to matter until you don't have one. And at this time last week, the Vikings had Ty Chandler in the backfield, but now they have Aaron Jones, who's released by the Packers on Monday. Hours after, well, actually, it was the following morning after we were on Monday. He signed a 1-year, $7 million contract with the Minnesota Vikings. By the way, Alexander Madison, as you mentioned at the top of the show, 1-year deal with the Las Vegas Raiders. I guess Alexander Madison, RB1, still a thing.
Replacing Josh Jacobs, huh?
Replacing Josh Jacobs and taking over Zamir White. It is funny. There's some people online, the fantasy football players, who are like, oh, Zamir White was going to be RB1. They're the same back. Like, Zamir White's not good either. So, I don't know. Trade him for 7th-round draft pick or whatever.
Somebody. Yeah, they'll draft somebody.
Or if it's like my league, they'll just give you 3 firsts for random players. I don't know how that works, but Aaron Jones, Minnesota Viking. You like the move?
Oh, yeah. I like it because I don't think they're going to use him. He's not going to be like an every down back, and that wasn't even his role with the Packers. He split time with A.J. Dillon. I think Aaron Jones got the majority of the touches, but A.J. Dillon was also a factor in that offense too. And I think it'll be interesting to see though how they utilize Ty Chandler and Aaron Jones in the backfield, because I feel like they're kind of similar in their skill sets, where Ty Chandler's just got speed and quickness and everything, and can catch the ball out of the backfield, where I feel like Aaron Jones, his advantage is his experience and his ability to probably be a better pass protector, which is what the Vikings are looking for in a running back, because Ty Chandler is not that great at it. But I like the move. You always like to see the old Packers come over to the Vikings and want to get revenge on their old team because they did him wrong. They already got him a purple and yellow sombrero, so he's ready to rock. And I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be interesting to see what they do after this year. If they, if Aaron Jones does well, are they going to want him to stick around? Or are they going to want to get another running back, in the draft or something or whatever? Because they're going to have cap space to bring him back or sign some other running back next year if they want. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I'm excited. He's a gigantic upgrade over Alexander Madison. Like, I think he averaged a full yard more per carry than Madison did last year, and it was a down year for Aaron Jones. So I'm excited. And guys who are released and find a new team, I feel like they're a little bit extra motivated to do a little better. Although I did see a stat either today or yesterday that running backs who switch teams with their new team, they don't really do that great. But hopefully it'll be a different scenario with Aaron Jones. But like I said, he's not going to be like the main. He's not going to be a 3-down guy. They're going to use him for the most part. I think maybe 60-40, 55-45 percentage wise between him and Ty Chandler, or maybe who's the other guy they got? Dwayne McBride. Is he going to be in there too? No. So no, I like the signing. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Dwayne McBride. Remember, here's my beacon of hope here. But Kyron Williams didn't play barely at all during his rookie year. I think part of it was due to an injury, but sometimes it takes these backs time to learn a pro system. So the Vikings didn't get rid of him. He was on the practice squad all last year. Do I think he'll pan out? No, I think they should draft one later rounds. My
7th round pick, right?
What's that? Yeah.
He's a 7th round pick. Yeah.
Starter grade, though.
Pacheco.
Yes. I said, greatest running back ever. Wait, do you want money? No, we're not going to pay you. No. Like I said, my guy, South Dakota State's Isaiah Davis. There will be SDSU Pro Day next Monday. I'm going to be there. So see how he tests there. But I think they need a back like that. They need a back that does a lot of yards after contact. Aaron Jones is very good at that. He's 29 years old, but a lot of his stats were really good, especially coming back after injury. I think he led the league in rushing when he came back. I think it was in week 13 or something. And I think, too, the thing that will be really interesting is his prowess in the screen game, which Kevin O'Connell has not been able to figure out in the first 2 years. So we'll find out, is it the back or is it the system? Because they got to figure out something.
They can't run tight end screen either, so I don't know if it's the back.
Maybe they should use Johnny Munt in some tight
Although
ends.
they did run, I think one of the only successful screens was the one to Dalvin Cook in the Colts comeback to either to tie or take the lead in that game. So that was a good one.
Yeah, I missed that one. I was
You
covering
missed
an
it?
SDSU game.
All right.
Everybody else was freaking out in the
No,
press
but
box, and I'm like, I'm just like it was that game was like you've seen Fever Pitch before, right?
yeah.
Yeah, you know the scene where he takes Drew Barrymore out on a date and like he sells his Yankees Red Sox
Yeah, and
tickets and they're
everything's
down.
the game's on everywhere.
Yeah, they're down 9-1, and he's like, "Oh, see, I'm not even missing anything." And then his buddy calls him. He's like, "This is the greatest game ever! Wow, I can't believe this!" And he has a panic attack.
Hey, you know what
That's
else is
pretty
funny
much
about
me.
Alexander Madison signing with the Raiders today? He signed a deal before Dalvin Cook did. So Dalvin Cook's still a free agent, and Madison's not.
But his shoulder's good.
Brand new. He's practically brand new.
Bionic shoulder. Some quick hitters here to wrap up. Harrison Smith, he's going to be back. A 13th season. He'll come back at a reduced number. It has not been released, but it's less than the $19 million cap hit he had just a week ago. How excited are you about Harrison Smith coming back?
Good. I mean, induct him into the Ring of Honor yesterday. So
Yeah.
Can you be inducted while you're still playing? Because he's going to be in there. It's a given. Hall of Fame, different story. I don't know. That might take a little longer. Even though he's probably worthy, but just different. No, I'm excited. I think it'll be good because I think it'll help out. I think they're probably going to add maybe some young pieces to the secondary in the draft this year, at least probably a corner or two. And I think it'll be good to have someone like him that people can feed off of. And he's always he's a good example to have in the locker room with young players of like just how to go about life in the NFL. He's been in the NFL for a long time. I don't think he's ever gotten in trouble. I don't think he's ever done anything to even be close to being in trouble, other than like destroy people's brains on the field.
I mean, that's like everybody. Like everybody's just seeking destroy.
I mean, his name is the Hitman, so his nickname is the Hitman, so he has to just live up to it. But no, I think he wants to play, but he probably just didn't want to like go through free agency and be like, I'm going to play in Seattle this year, and you know, because I think his wife's pregnant. They just had a kid like a year or two ago, so he's gonna have 2 young kids, and be like, sorry, I'm gonna go to Seattle. You know, let's do this. Probably just like, no, I'll just stay here. You can pay me, I don't know, enough to live a year, and I'll be good. So no, and he's still fine. He's not the Harrison Smith of the All Pro Harrison Smith, but he's still better than probably more than half the starting safeties in the NFL.
I think he's taking on a leadership role with that defense. He's not like rah-rah like Everson Griffin or Jared Allen was, or even like Brian Robinson. But I mean, he's been there long enough. He's one of the rare players in today's NFL that when he retires, you're gonna know him from one team and one team only.
Yeah.
Like, you know, a lot of like Eric Weddle. I remember him. Like he wound up bouncing around a little bit at the end of his
Jason
career,
Kelce,
right?
just retired with the Eagles.
Yeah.
He was with the Eagles the whole time.
Yeah. They're famous for something, aren't they?
Is it like a dating show?
Something like that. Yeah, something about their love life.
Yeah.
No, I mean, too, like the safety room, if Harrison Smith was gone, you might have needed somebody. I mean, Cam Bynum's, he's a starter. He's pretty good. Trying to think. They're
going to have money next year to go out. They're gonna have money next year and cap space to go out and probably replace Harrison Smith. Because I'm gonna assume this is probably the last year. Because I think he has 1 year left on his deal after this. He has 2 years right now, but he'll have 1 year after next season, and I think it's pretty easy for the Vikings to get out of that deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pour some out for Lewis Cine too, by the way, because it doesn't seem like Theo Jackson. That was the guy I was thinking of. Yep. He played and then you have Metellus who's out there. So I mean, they're pretty deep in the safety room, but I would Harrison Smith. I'm sure nobody's upset with that.
No, I would expect Bynum to get extended this offseason too. I think he's eligible for an extension. I think that's probably going to happen. He's played pretty well, and it won't be expensive to extend him.
Players who are not returning next year: KJ Osborne. a deal is worth 1 year, $4 million. He was called Clutch. I saw a key playmaker for the Vikings.
Yeah.
That was probably coming from his agent.
Uh-huh.
Are you sweating the loss of Osborne?
No. Good, solid player for the Vikings during his tenure. I think he proved a lot of people wrong in his second year because I think the first year he didn't even get a snap on offense, and he just did punt returns, and he wasn't that great. But he proved a lot of people wrong. Second year, came up clutch. I think 2022. He had a lot of him and Kirk Cousins connected a lot on those late game comebacks. And last year, just kind of fell off. Like he had a bunch of drops, and I don't know if that was really all on him or it was just the quarterback carousel going on in Minnesota. But yeah, he's a solid receiver. The Patriots, they need receivers, so they took a chance on him. He's costing them $4 million.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing about him signing is that he gave the Vikings another compensatory pick, the third round. So thanks for that. Like that's the highlight of him leaving. So yes, I'm happy that he left, so the Vikings can get another third round pick next year.
It leaves a bit of a hole in the Vikings offense because he did a lot of the dirty work, like blocking and some stuff. A lot of people thought he could put up bigger numbers, but I mean, when you're blocking and doing all the things, I mean, the number 3 receiver in the offense, potentially even number 2 is TJ Hawkinson. That tight end role is the second role in the offense.
Aaron Jones now, maybe too.
Yeah. I mean, I think they should draft one. I think that would be a good idea. Yeah. And this is a good receiver. You just take 1 5th, 6th round and see. I mean, if you hit, like that's another weapon. And we saw Puka Nacua become a big time weapon for the Rams. So
then you can trade Justin. No.
Top 5 places for Justin Jefferson to go. Number 1, the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah. But I think they signed Brandon Powell before Osborne signed his new deal. So I think that was kind of writing on the wall because Powell was pretty good last year. And then they still have Jalen Naylor, who I don't know what they're going to do with him. I think they have like 12 receivers on their roster now. They have like Tristan Jack. They still have N'Keal Harry on their roster. Although I heard he might be putting on some weight to transition to be tight end because Hawkinson's out. I don't know.
It would be a smart career move for him.
It would be.
Yeah.
Because he's already like he's already like 235, 230. So it's not like he has to put on a ton of weight. But yeah, they have a lot of receivers. So not bringing back Osborne was not surprising at all.
I did laugh. Speaking of tight ends, somebody put up a video of Irv Smith Jr.'s combine footage and just like, man, he's going to go off. And somebody's like, if you're putting up combine footage in year 6, it's a good sign it's not working out. But
the president, they didn't put up. That's what they did for Treadwell too, right?
Yeah.
Just do that all the time too.
Maybe Treadwell will have the reunion tour.
He's still in the league. He's still in the NFL.
Good for him. I mean, he's making a living
at
least, but hey, whatever.
Better than us, I guess.
Yes. What's going on at the Viking age, man?
We just had a new mock draft come out today after all the craziness shenanigans last week with free agency and the trade. Nick Edlin did that one. Lupagus from One Bar on Lupagus, that guy from the podcast, the infamous podcast over there. He did that, and then we're just covering everything, all the other free agency stuff going on. Still a bunch of stuff going on this week. Also more draft stuff. There's just a lot of rumors, I feel like, floating around this week after everything that happened last week, so we'll be covering that. But yeah, check us out at thevikingage.com.
And where can people follow you on social media?
At Adam Patrick on Twitter and Threads.
There you go. You can follow me at the real Chris Schad, Twitter, X, Instagram. I think TikTok's going away, but I still post there every once in a while. Just if you type in real Chris Schad Anywhere you can find it, you'll find me. But that is all the time we have for the Viking Age podcast today. We do this every Monday with a late week episode right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel. We're also in podcast form on Apple and Spotify the very next day. But however you consume us, make sure you rate, comment, like, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode. We can spread the word to the masses. For Adam Patrick, I am Chris Schad. This has been the Viking Age podcast.